Hi, welcome to my next video on Azure concepts. We are going to see data centers, availability sets, availability zones, regions, and about geography. This is continuation of my previous video related to Azure concept introduction. If you are new to this series, better you watch my first video on Azure concept. I will be providing the link for the first video in the description. You can go ahead and then see that one, and after that when you come here and you will continue learning on the Azure concepts. First, let's start with what is Azure Data Center. All we can say that it is a kind of physical facility, or we can say a data center in Azure, a physical facility that houses servers like application server, web server, database servers, storage, and other infrastructure that make up the Azure cloud computing platform. These data centers are strategically located around the world to provide low latency access and high availability for Azure customers. These physical centers used for hosting networked computers, say group of SQL servers, web servers, virtual machines, servers. These facilities will have their own power and cooling unit, and they are highly available and secured, and they are designed to take care of high availability and security. With multiple layers of security and redundancy to protect against outages and data loss. They are also designed energy efficient and environment friendly using cutting edge technology like liquid cooling and micro modular data center design. You might have heard in the news that Microsoft is successful in terms of liquid cooling by installing by having their data center around Europe. These Azure data centers are also connected to Azure or Microsoft Global Network, which provide high speed and low latency connectivity between data centers, as well as between data centers and customers. This allows customer to easily transfer data between data centers and take advantage of Azure Global Network to improve the performance and availability of their applications. Azure data center within the same region are connected. They are connected through high speed and a low latency network, which provide fast and reliable communication between the data center within the same region. This allows customers to easily transfer data between data centers and take advantage of Azure global network to improve the performance and availability of their applications. If you look here, every data center have their own power and cooling unit, and they are geographically separated together, and they are connected between high speed and low latency network. Now let's see what are the regions in Azure. As I mentioned in my previous slide, data centers forms a region. That is, a region has one or more number of data centers. If you look into this diagram, across the globe, there are multiple regions are all there, and each region houses multiple number of data centers. So regions in Microsoft Azure are nothing but a geographical location in which Azure services are available. These regions are used to deploy resources such as virtual machine, storage account, and databases. And again, they are designed to provide low latency access to these resources for users and applications. Azure currently has over 60 plus regions worldwide, with more being added as the service expands. Each region is composed of one or more data centers that are connected by high speed private network. Some Azure services are only available in certain regions due to regulatory compliance or other technical requirements. Say, for example, Azure government services are only available in Azure government regions, which are specifically designed for government agencies and organizations. Additionally, some services such as Azure Cognitive Services, Azure Machine Learning are only available in certain regions due to compliance or other regulatory requirement. There are some services like Azure Cosmos DB, Azure Stream Analytics, Azure Event Hubs, and Azure Notification Hubs are available only in certain regions. So it is important to note that all the services or features are available in all the regions. The availability may vary depending on the service and the region. Now, let's see what are Azure special regions. If you look here, there are Azure government or Azure US government regions which are exclusively for US government operations, and the data centers are in US and are directly operated by Microsoft. These Azure government regions are mission critical cloud deployments which are delivering innovation to US government customers and their partners. Only US federal, state, local, and tribal governments and their partners have access to these dedicated instances, with operations controlled and screened by US citizens only. Next come, there are a couple of other regions. They are from China, that is China East and China North. These regions are available through the unique partnership between Microsoft and 21 VNet, whereby Microsoft does not directly maintain the data centers. As per Chinese law, those are the only those are the only given to companies with less than 50% of the foreign interest. And so global company like Microsoft will never meet this requirement. As such, Azure China is run by the Chinese telecom company called 21 VNet. So these two are all considered as special regions. Next come, what is a region pairing and why we need them? Region pairing is an interconnectivity between two Azure regions within the same geographical area. They are connected with a low latency and high bandwidth link. They will help to design geographically redundant solution. For example, let's take uh, to duplicate data and services across the region for disaster recovery and high availability. The primary region is where the majority of the workload is running, and the security region is used for failover in case of an outage or disruption in the primary region. Let's see an example of the Azure region. Let's take United States. There are multiple regions are here. Now, East US and West US regions are all paired together to ensure that failover happens in case of any outage or any natural disasters in any of the region. Microsoft says that it maintains a distance between region pair which is minimum 300 miles, and this can vary depending upon the location of the regions. Each region is paired with another region, making it as a regular pair. When you are buying a service or configuring a service, region pairs are static and cannot be chosen. Microsoft platforms planned updates one, one region between the Azure regions to ensure that updates are successful and there is no rollback. That is, Microsoft pushes any software updates in the two regions, which are all paired together simultaneously. They do update in one region, and after successful completion only they will pick up the next region within the Azure paired region for software update. Now let's see some of the advantages of region pairing. Region pairing delivers five major advantages. Let's see them one by one. Number one, geo-redundant storage services, which are used for automatically replicate between the region pairs. Thereby, there is no data loss. If there is any failure detected in one region, the other region will come up and it service for your application. And so the customer will not feel that there is a downtime. Next thing is Microsoft prioritize planned maintenances in a staggered manners across region pairs so that same maintenance activity does not occur during the same window for both regions in a given pair. Third one is high availability. By replicating data to a secondary region, region pairs provide a level of redundancy that can help to ensure that application and services remain available even in the event of failure or outage in the primary region. Next come disaster recovery. Region pairs can be used to implement disaster recovery plans that help protect against regional disasters such as natural disasters or power outages. The last one is related to compliance and regulatory requirements. Some organizations are required to store data in a specific geographic locations for compliance and regulatory reasons. By using region pass, it can help organization to meet these requirements while still providing the benefits of replication and disaster recovery. And so these are the five key advantages of having regional pairing. Now let's see what is availability zone. Availability zones are unique physical location in Azure region. Each availability zone has a distinct power source, network, and cooling. Recent update is that all regions supports availability zones. There are three available zones as supported by Azure region. With availability zones, Azure offers industry best 99.99 uptime SLA for resources like virtual machines. By designing your solution to use replicated VMs in zone, you can protect your apps and data from the loss of data center. If you look into this diagram, we have a data center. These data centers forms availability zone. These availability zones are all numbered and they reside in a single Azure region. They are all connected together to ensure that low latency, high availability network is established between them. We will use the same diagram to learn more about other key concepts related to Azure in the succeeding slides. If you look here, the availability zones are numbered. Previously, Azure had a minimum two available zones. However, moving forward, new regions will have minimum of three availability zones where possible. Regions and availability zone need to be selected while creating the resource in Azure. There are two different classifications with respect to availability zones. They are zonal services and zonal redundant services. The zonal services are nothing but a set of service offered by Microsoft Azure where a resource can be deployed to a specific self-selected availability zone to achieve more stringent latency or performance requirements. For example, virtual machines, disk, and IP addresses are example of zonal services, which means they are closely tied up with a particular region. Zonal redundant services is the one where replication will happen automatically. For example, services like SQL Server, storage services are the best example for zonal redundant services. Here in the zonal redundant services, when you are in when you are selecting the service for your project requirement or application requirement, automatically you will be selecting another redundant location where the data from a SQL server is replicated, or the storage of information available in one location is replicated. So automatic replication is possible by the use of zonal redundant services. Now, now uh, let's see about availability set. Availability set is one of a concept behind Microsoft Azure. They are here to handle outage or maintenance of event. Now the let's see you have set of servers, and the servers are all mostly available in the racks. So a couple of racks which are shown here can host multiple number of racks, and these racks will have n number of servers like application server, web server, database server, mail server, documentation server, like that. And every server can have a special software called hypervisor, using which we can create multiple number of virtual machines. And these virtual machine can be used to host your applications. And within these virtual machines, there are special virtual machines. They are all connected together or paired together to form an availability sets. So an availability set is a logical grouping of similar VMs that allows Azure to understand how your application is built to provide for redundancy and availability. Using this availability set, you can ensure that during either an outage or maintenance events that require a reboot of virtual machine, or at least one VM is available. Say for example, if there is any outage here, the other one will take over. If there is a maintenance activity going on, something like rebooting the virtual machine, this will be active and serve the customers. Using availability set, you can ensure that during either an outage or in the maintenance events, either one or more number of VMs are all available for the application to respond to customer request. That makes the design easier, and this ensures there's 99.99% availability of Azure resources to customer. And this is about availability set. Now we have seen many things like data center, region, region pair, now availability set. Now let us connect them together. If you see here, this is the world map containing a set of regions across the globe. Let us pick up a region India. Here in India, there are multiple number of data centers are there. And in this region, we have data centers, one located on the south and another located on the west. And these data centers, as I mentioned earlier, they are all connected using diverse fiber path to ensure that low latency and high availability network connected. And thereby, the response time from those servers which are all hosted in these data centers are very quick. Now, these data centers, as I mentioned earlier, have their own rack, and each rack can house multiple number of servers. Every server have an hypervisor software, and every hypervisor software can have one or more number of virtual machines. And any of these virtual machines which are all separated together from a physical hardware form a availability set, and that makes a connectivity between various stuff, which includes data center, availability zone, Azure region, and then rack, server, and hypervisor. Now, let's see more on Azure region, availability zone, and data centers. As I mentioned, these are the data centers. Let's pick up one data center, and this is part of a whole region. And we have three data centers here form one Azure region or one zone. And this will be connected with another zone. They have their own independent cooling and power unit. The multiple number of data centers forms the available zone. And this is a very big picture about Azure region, availability zone, and data center. Let us try to understand more on this concept. If you look here, we are going to connect data center with availability set and then availability zone and then region and then geography. The lowest part is the data center, which will house multiple number of servers. Every server can have a hypervisor software using which multiple number of VMs are all created. They can be used to host your application, your web services, your data storage, and many more. VM in one data center connected with another VM in another data center to ensure that both the VMs are all in similar nature and they handshake with each other and they form a high availability network to ensure that the data in one VM are replicated in another VM. So, in case of any outage or any maintenance task in one particular VM will not affect the other VM, and so business continuity will be there. So, we have multiple data centers forms and availability zones, and we have more number of availability zones that will form a region, and multiple region form a geography. And this is what the complete hierarchy of data center to availability set to availability zone to region to geography. So this picture will give you a good vision on how to correlate between data center to geography. This is another view. Assume you have a web application which uses a web API that connect to a data center. Let's take it is to a web server through an orchestration concept that in turn connect to an Azure Fabric controller and establish connection to a web server that normally go through a load balancer. That balance the load or the number of requests comes from multiple customers and they distribute the traffic to a designated web server from where it will be connected to application server or database server through multiple number of security controls, something like firewalls. And so you will have a cluster of node that form a data center, or you can say that these server racks forms a cluster and number of clusters forms a data center and the number of data centers forms availability zones and the number of availability zones form a region and n number of regions forms a geography. And that is the next part of concept related to Azure. And I hope this video is helpful to you in terms of preparing yourself or to get to know about Azure concept. If you like this video, please go ahead and subscribe it and you will be notified whenever I publish a new video. And this is not the end of our session. We will be continuing again on the Azure concept sometime tomorrow with a newer subsection. Till then, stay tuned, stay safe, and bye now.